welcome to the deep dive. So we've got this collection of source material today, mostly video commentary clips reacting to recent stuff happening in Brazil politically and socially. We're going to jump right in.
Yeah, exactly. And this material, it gives a really specific view, often unfiltered, It's not just about what happened, but how people are seeing it and arguing about it online.
Right. So our mission here is to unpack the key moments these sources show us, look at the viewpoints, which sometimes, wow, they really clash, and pull out any surprising insights this kind of commentary might offer.
Basically getting a unique angle on what's grabbing attention, what's causing debate.
So we'll cover a few main things based on these sources. A politician's controversial walkout, a pretty challenging street encounter about welfare and work.
Yeah, that one's something.
A quick look at internet control in Cuba, actually, through tourist eyes.
And finally, a debate shown in the source about a law that, well, sounds like a good idea on the surface.
Okay, let's get into it. We'll start with that political moment. It clearly struck a nerve, went viral, at least in the world of this commentary. It's about former minister Marina Silva at a Senate hearing.
Right. The sources focus on this incident where apparently she felt she wasn't being treated with respect.
Yeah. Demanded an apology, and according to the commentary we watched, she didn't get one. So she just left.
And that's where the online reaction, the stuff in our sources, really kicks off. The presenter we're following, they feature this viral meme. Literally swaps out Marina Silva for E.T.
Wow. Okay. Pretty blunt visual then.
Oh, yeah. And the presenter, they kind of double down on it. They make specific references, calling it the official video without the human filter, sarcastic.
Yeah, the human filter.
And they really lean into comparing how she looks to Avodo Baby's grandma from that old show, Familia Dinosauros, that kind of, specific look.
Oh, I remember that show.
Yeah, and they even joke about the E.T. finger lighting up, saying they knew that detail would pop up in the meme. It's just pure visual satire.
So you've got this sort of spectacle, but the sources immediately show how different people are interpreting it, right? We see these conflicting takes side by side.
Exactly. There's a clip from someone they call Fernanda. She defends Marina Silva, saying the exit wasn't weakness. It was like a powerful stand.
Against what, specifically?
Against being humiliated, brutally disrespected, and facing sexism, misogyny. Fernanda compares her to other women leaving places where they're put down prejudiced environments.
Okay, so that's one interpretation, but then...
Boom. Immediately contrasted with a clip from someone named Firmino and his take. Completely different. Heavy satire. He argues she didn't leave because of disrespect.
But because...
Because she had no arguments left. She was just making a scene. That's his angle.
Okay, so polar opposites there.
And Firmino goes even further. He dismisses the whole idea of her being an inspiration. Says flat out she never inspired me to do anything. And then makes this really dark joke connecting her to, deforestation and fires, playing on her environmental background.
Wow, okay. That is a sharp contrast.
Definitely. And the main presenter, the one curating these clips, adds his own cynical comment. Calls politicians in general cacareco velho.
Old clunkers, basically.
Yeah, old junk. It tells you a lot about the overall skepticism towards the political establishment in this commentary. Just dismissive.
And the sources also show reactions from other senators during the hearing.
Yeah, little snippets. Some offer solidarity to the minister, try to smooth it over, call it an isolated incident.
Try and contain it, maybe?
Seems like it. And there's this one really striking moment caught on camera. A senator uses the phrase "ponerse no seu lugar" towards her.
Put yourself in your place. Oof, that's a loaded phrase, isn't it?
Absolutely. Especially in that context, senator to minister, public hearing. Another senator immediately calls it machismo, sexism.
And did the first senator respond to that?
Well, later he apparently tried to clarify. Said he wasn't trying to diminish her as a person or a woman, but was calling her to her, proper role as a minister in that setting.
So the language itself becomes a point of contention.
Instantly. And just to show how varied the commentary gets, the presenter even throws in this quick kind of random jab about another senator's looks, mentions a strange forehead.
Right, so it gets personal and even a bit superficial.
Exactly. So I think for you, the listener, what this whole segment from the sources shows is just how fast political moments, even just someone walking out, get grabbed, turned into memes, and then fiercely debated online, with totally different, often really charged or satirical narratives hitting all at once.
It really highlights that online narrative battle, the speed of it.
Yeah.
Okay, let's shift gears completely. Moving to a different kind of commentary in the source material. This one's about confrontation, right? In Floripa.
Yes, this clip features a guy named Bruno Sousa confronting a panhandler. And it presents a very raw, street-level view on a really tricky social issue.
Okay, tell us about the interaction as the source presents it.
Well, it describes the panhandler as a young man, 29 years old, and the source makes a point of saying, no reported physical disability, no family situation stopping him from working.
Okay, so setting up a specific context.
Right. And the source really emphasizes what the panhandler supposedly admitted when confronted. First, that he gets $600 a month from the government, Bolsa Família.
The social welfare program.
Exactly. But then, and this seems key to the source's point, he also supposedly admitted earning $100 to $150 a day from begging.
A day, wow.
Yeah, including getting Pix transfers, those instant digital payments. So you do the math, that's potentially what? Our $3,000, $4,500 a month, maybe more.
A lot more than the Bolsa Família amount.
Way more. And here's the kicker. According to the source, the panhandler apparently refused a job offer.
Refused it. Why?
Because he'd lose his Bolsa Familia benefits if he took a formal job, one with a signed work card, cartita assinada.
The formal employment issue.
And his reasons for not working, as quoted directly in the source, they're incredibly blunt. He says, cartita assinada a foda, basically. A signed work card is a pain, a hassle.
Doesn't want the obligations, maybe.
Seems like it. And then he apparently claims he has vagabundate aguda.
Which means...
It's like acute vagrantitis, acute laziness. He's essentially saying, I just don't want to work.
Wow, that's quite the self-diagnosis. So how does the commentary in the source frame this?
Well, it clearly sides with the criticism shown in the clip. It presents the specific case as like Exhibit A for someone exploiting the system when they could work.
Got it.
And the presenter adds a little side note, too. He questions calling someone age 29 a young man, arguing, at 29 you're just a man, implying a certain level of expected responsibility.
Okay, so this clip, the way the source highlights and frames it, it gives you, the listener, a really potent, though very specific and anecdotal look into these tough debates. Welfare, personal responsibility, the problems with finding alternatives to begging.
Yeah, it drops one very specific story right into the middle of a huge, complex policy discussion. It's meant to provoke, clearly.
Okay, let's move again. Another distinct observation from the sources, this time-shifting focus geographically. A short clip featuring Hélio de la Peña, right? The Brazilian comedian. In Cuba.
Yeah, this is brief but quite telling. It's just him describing his frustration as a tourist trying to use the internet there.
Okay, what were his specific complaints, according to the source?
Pretty stark, actually. He says the government controls everything, even the Wi-Fi. He bought a data plan, like 4 GB, and it lasted him one day. Just one day.
Wow.
Then he tried to buy more and found it super difficult, maybe impossible. Kept getting told his monthly quota was used up. And he also says even the hotel Wi-Fi is totally unreliable. It only works when the government allows it, apparently. Comes on and off in these unpredictable bursts. So you just can't rely on it for anything, basic communication, anything.
Man, that sounds incredibly frustrating, even just for a tourist trying to stay connected.
Definitely. And his final piece of advice, quoted in the source, is pretty blunt. Don't come to Cuba like I did. Just flat out warning people off.
And how did the presenter react to this anecdote?
Oh, exactly. As you probably guessed from the tone we've seen. Pure sarcasm. Refers to Cuba as a socialist paradise right after showing that clip.
Right. So, okay, it's a small snapshot. But this story from the sources gives a really concrete, ground-level example. How information control in a different political system actually impacts daily life, even something as simple as a tourist getting online.
Yeah, it takes an abstract idea, government control, and makes it very personal and frustrating through his experience. One person's bad trip becomes an illustration of the system.
Got it. Okay, final section. We're shifting back to Brazil, back to policy discussions presented in the sources. This is about a proposed law, right?
Yes, exactly. The law they discuss would grant an IPI exemption, that's the industrialized products tax on cars, specifically for women identified as victims of domestic violence.
Okay. And the source mentions who supports this.
Yeah, it notes that the proposal apparently has support from different political sides. It specifically mentions Damares, usually seen as on the right, and Tabata Amaral from the left.
So, on the face of it, it seems like something with broad appeal, aimed at helping a vulnerable group with something tangible.
That's how it appears initially, yes. But the core criticism, as presented in this specific source material, is that this law, however well-intentioned, could actually create big problems, that it might incentivize false accusations and what the source calls victimism.
Okay, victimism. That's a loaded term. Suggests faking victimhood for gain. What's the reasoning in the source for that concern?
The specific worry highlighted is about the proof required. The source suggests there might not be a strict requirement for undeniable proof, like a forensic exam, what they call a corpo de delito. And they directly link this concern to the idea, sometimes expressed as "accredita sempre na vítima," always believe the victim. The argument from this source is, if you don't have tough proof standards and serious penalties for lying, then a law offering a big benefit, like a discount on a car, could tempt people to make fake claims just to get that advantage.
I see. And the presenter adds their own take on this.
Oh, yeah. A really cynical perspective basically suggests that in Brazil, where the source implies people are always looking for an angle, an advantage, you might even see couples scheming together, like the partner telling the woman, hey, falsely report me for domestic violence so we can get the car discount.
Right.
He literally calls the potential situation absurd.
Wow. That's a pretty harsh and distrustful view of how people might react.
It really is. It's presented in the source as a serious concern about unintended consequences and, well, gaming the system when there's a financial incentive tied to a very sensitive social issue. It really shows the source's focus on potential exploitation.
Right. So this part of the material, as the source presents it, it really highlights the complexities, the potential downsides this source sees in policies that might seem good on paper, especially when you look at them through this critical lens focused on loopholes and, frankly, a cynical view of human behavior.
Exactly. It forces a question from the source's viewpoint about how you design policy to account for potential bad actors or negative behavior.
Okay, so we've covered quite a bit today, drawing from these specific sources. We saw that political walkout get spun and memed.
The online reaction.
Dove into that really raw, controversial street interaction about welfare and work.
The Floripa clip, yeah.
Got that frustrating glimpse of internet issues in Cuba.
Hélio de la Peña's experience.
And then explored this pretty cynical critique of that proposed law for domestic violence victims.
Yeah, this whole stack of sources, it really gives you a concentrated dose of the kinds of debates, the kind of commentary that's out there in certain online spaces in Brazil right now. Often heavy on satire, strong opinions, and really focused on what they see as hypocrisy or exploitation.
Definitely. They really show how commentary, especially online commentary like this, isn't just reporting facts. It's actively framing things, reframing them, often using humor or sharp criticism to get at what they see as underlying problems or tensions in society.
And looking at sources like these, even if they present challenging or uncomfortable views sometimes, it helps understand the different layers, the contradictions in public discussions. You see how different narratives get built.
Absolutely. So maybe here's a final thought for you, the listener, to sort of mull over as you think about all the information you encounter. In a world just flooded with instant commentary, strong opinions often wrapped in humor, satire, personal stories, how do you evaluate the different narratives?
Yeah, when is it offering real insight and when is it maybe just pushing a specific viewpoint or bias, no matter how cleverly or entertainingly it's presented?
It's a really crucial question, isn't it? Especially today.
It really is. Navigating all this requires some critical thinking.
Indeed. Well, thank you for taking this deep dive into these particular sources with us today.
Yeah, thanks for joining the discussion.